Good evening and welcome to the Roseville City Council meeting of our Housing Authority meeting, our Finance Authority meeting of February 4th, 2026. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask our clerk to please read the roll.
Thank you. We'll start with Vice Mayor Albert.
Here.
Councilmember Haldeshell.
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza is excused. Councilmember Rakucci. Here. And Mayor Bernasconi.
Here, thank you. I'd like to ask Wood Creek Principal Sue Ann Bell if she would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. We need to do a readout for closed session. Can we do it? Yes. Okay, perfect.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to ask our city attorney to read out our actions from closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. The City Council met in closed session this evening on conference with labor negotiations pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.6. Chief negotiator was Timothy Davis with the law firm of Burke, Williams, and Sorensen, LLP, and our agency designated representative was Stacy Peterson, our Human Resources Director. They met to discuss the employee organization International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 1245. They heard a report from staff and gave direction, but there is no reportable action. And the meeting adjourned at 5:59 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to ask our clerk if she would please read the meeting procedures.
Thank you very much. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting. Agendas are available in the corner right as you enter into the room and also on our city's website. All comments from the public should be directed to the City Council and not to any member of the public or to any staff member. All speakers must speak from the podium as our meeting is being recorded tonight. Please note that due to streaming from a temporary location, not our regular council chambers, we will be experiencing a brief lapse in time from one item to the next and when calling for public comment. We look forward to returning to our council chambers in spring of 2026 and appreciate your patience and understanding as we work through to ensure a smooth experience while in our temporary location. So for items that are not on the agenda tonight, the public may address the City Council on those items that are not listed on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of our City Council. All public comment will be limited to 25 minutes for the very first segment, with each speaker being provided 3 minutes to express their comments. If the time limitation is reached in the first segment, individuals will have a second opportunity at the end of the meeting, just prior to council comments, to make a comment to the council. The Brown Act does prohibit our City Council from discussing, debating, or taking actions on items that are not listed on tonight's agenda. For those items that are appearing on the agenda, the Brown Act allows for the public to comment on all items listed on the agenda, and speakers will have 5 minutes to make their comments for those items. Time will be monitored, and once the red light begins to blink here at the podium, we ask that the speaker please conclude their comments. City Council encourages participation and requests that you please be courteous during the meeting. With that, welcome to the City of Roseville.
Thank you, Carmen. All right. We have two presentations to give this evening before we get into our official business, and I would like to invite the team from Wood Creek to meet me at the podium for their proclamation or their resolutions. So maybe Principal Bell and your coach and the players want to line up behind. Yes, after. I mean, you can grab anything now, but we're gonna take a picture after we do all this too.
Okay.
All right. Who's head coach?
That's me.
You. Nice. All right. Let's get your principal up here. At the end, I'll invite you guys to say a few words if you want, and your players too. So we're really excited to present this to you this evening. I even wore a Wood Creek collar.
I noticed.
It's very difficult for
I
me.
noticed that. We were talking how what
As
a great
Roseville
politician
High-
you must be.
Yes, I know. A camouflage as a mom of, well, an Oakmont graduate and then a mom of a tiger. And I know, Sue Ann, you're also a tiger.
I am.
But
We
not
don't talk
anymore.
about
it.
Yeah,
I was.
I know, we don't talk
I
about it. So we are here this evening. I'd like to invite my colleagues to start us off with the resolution.
Whereas Wood Creek High School has a tradition of excellence in academics, athletics, and character development, and the Wood Creek High School Timberwolves varsity football team stands as a powerful reflection of these values. And
Whereas on or off the field, Timberwolf
Student athletes strive to embody the integrity, discipline, and determination that defines what it means to be part of the Timberwolves, and
Whereas in 2025-26, varsity football team delivered an extraordinary season in the school's 31-year history, far surpassing expectations and establishing a long list of first-ever achievements that will define the program for years to come. And
Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Roseville, California, that Wood Creek High School Timberwolves varsity football team, its administration, its coaches, student athletes, and supporters be recognized and congratulated for winning the San Joaquin Section Championship, achieving a milestone during the 2025 season, and for representing the City of Roseville with Timberwolf pride. Congratulations. Thank you. So how about this? If you want to make a few comments, you can make comments. If the boys want to say something real quick, and then we'll take a picture with the resolution.
Okay.
Sound good? Okay.
I would just like to introduce, of course, our team, and then our head coach, Kyle Stowers, and he's going to say a few words, but what I want to say is this doesn't happen by accident. This happens by leadership. And what is probably the most, it's going to make me feel like I want to tear up, but some of the best comments that I've had this year from this coach and this team are what good humans they are. When you go to another school, you play another school, and you have the refs and the visiting team tell you what good character your team has, that means everything to a principal. So I attribute that to this group of boys and, of course, the coaches that we have. So I'm going to let Kyle Stowers say a few words, but it's been amazing to have them here. So
Okay.
thank you.
All right, I guess I'm up.
Coach.
Two things. One, I won't need the whole 5 minutes, so I don't need the red light.
We start with green.
Okay. Green means go. Two, my wife says, I'm not always emotional. This is an emotional night for us. First and foremost, thank you for having us. Thank you for taking the time to honor our school, our football team. Like Ms. Bell said, this doesn't happen by accident. There's a lot that goes into this. So I want to take a minute and just sort of recognize some of the key contributors that are here tonight. This is Coach Benoit. He's our defensive coordinator. Josiah Melendez played quarterback for us. Jasper Daniel Liggins.
Raise your hand.
offensive
You know who
line.
you are. Raise your hand so you know who you are.
Carson Shahabel is back there. Those three are seniors, so they'll be graduating in May. Ethan Kime, and then is a junior, along with Trace Murchison, is also a junior. So they're here tonight. And I said this at our banquet, which was right after our season, that it truly takes a village. And we feel fortunate to be a part of this journey. It started in last January when I took over. And part of that is we're fortunate because we have a community, a school, our administrators you see that are here tonight to support us. So it truly takes a village. The story of this team, so I don't get the red light, I'll go sort of quickly, is it's about work and a belief in each other. This group did everything that Coach and I asked, and our staff worked tirelessly. We saw the potential that this group had, and we pushed them. We had a loss midway through the year. A lot of teams would feel sorry for themselves. It turned out to be a great moment for us. That hard work culminated in a section championship game. To give some context, 31 years in the school, didn't have a winning record till 2018. Didn't make its first section till 2 years ago. So we felt in some ways blessed, but we belonged in that game. A back and forth game, probably took 5 years off my life. Coach, I don't know about you. My wife says I have a lot more gray hair than I did a year ago, and it's worth it. But it's a credit to our kids, right, for believing in the process. We don't always just focus on wins and losses. It's about stacking days together and learning how to become a winner. And somewhere along the line, they found ways to become winners because we made a couple more plays than them. So that is just a credit to our kids. So one more time, thank you for having us, for taking the time to recognize us. We feel fortunate to be where we're at. A couple juniors are here tonight. We start the climb back to the top of the mountain. So the goal is, hopefully we'll see you in a year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
come around and take a picture, so if you stand up here. And I think it's only fair, we had the other team from across town, they did say something. Do any of your players want to say anything about the final play? We'll wait, we'll do it.
Jasper, you got anything?
I'll get on the other side.
All right.
Can I plug it in here?
Yeah, so I'm gonna squeeze in here and just grab my phone. Are we all in?
Trace your holding.
All right, so.
Okay, I'll see you
Dawn's
here.
gonna try
Yep,
to
I
get-
gotcha.
Can you see us all?
Yep. You ready?
Do it.
1, 2, 3.
All right, let me zoom in a little bit. Not too much though here. Okay. Got it.
Okay, I'll get this to you. Congratulations.
This is fun.
You got Pro Bowl game.
Congratulations. Thanks for coming in, you guys.
Because it's an Olympic sport in 2028.
Yeah?
Congratulations, Coach. Thank you. It's going on TV, I hope. It's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just don't tag me on anything, please.
The next item before us is a proclamation for Lunar New Year. And is Cam here? Yes. Okay. You're the fire horse.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. All right, well, we're glad you're here. If you want to come over here and
Yep.
my colleague will start us off.
Whereas the city of Roseville is strengthened by the many cultures, traditions, and stories that shape our shared community, including the rich heritage of Asian American and Pacific Islander residents who call Roseville and Placer County home, and
Whereas Lunar New Year is a cherished celebration observed by families and communities across Asia and the Pacific Islands, marking a time of renewal, gratitude, and hope for the year ahead. And
Whereas the arrival of the Year of the Fire Horse invites our community to embrace the qualities of courage, creativity, and collective resilience, values that reflect the spirit of Roseville's neighborhoods, families, and local organizations. And
Now, therefore, I, Krista Bernasconi, Mayor of the City of Roseville, California, do hereby proclaim and recognize Lunar New Year on February 17th, 2026, and encourage all residents and community organizations to honor the traditions, contributions, and community spirit of Asian American and Pacific Islander families, organizations, and small businesses throughout the city. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll have you. We'll do the same. We'll have her say a few words and we'll take a group photo.
That sounds great, yeah. If I could have my AAPI be up here as well.
So I timed myself last night, it's 3.5 minutes, so I'm gonna be under 5. Arletta gave me some really great guidance when we were emailing back and forth, so. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi, council members, city staff. My name is Cam Mahan, and I serve as the board president of AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander of Placer County. We're a nonprofit committed to empowering local AAPI community members to be seen, heard, and understood. We promote cultural awareness, expand access to resources, and cultivate partnerships that strengthen community well-being. It is an honor to stand here on behalf of our organization and the many AAPI families who call Placer County, and especially Roseville, home. Thank you for this meaningful proclamation recognizing the Lunar New Year of 2026, the Year of the Fire Horse. Your recognition tonight is more than a symbolic gesture. It reflects the values that make Roseville a thriving, inclusive, and forward-looking city. When local government uplifts cultural traditions like Lunar New Year, it tells our community, especially our youth, that their heritage is something to celebrate openly and proudly. For many AAPI families, Lunar New Year is a time of renewal and reconnection. It's when generations gather, elders pass down stories and traditions, and children learn the rituals that tie them to their ancestors. It's a season of red envelopes, lion dances, firecrackers, shared meals, and the hope for good health and prosperity in the year ahead. By recognizing this holiday, you help preserve these traditions for future generations and create space for all residents to learn and participate. That is how community is built, through shared understanding and celebration. This year on February 17th, we welcome the Fire Horse, a symbol of courage, creativity, and forward momentum. Its bold spirit mirrors the energy we see in Roseville today, a city growing in diversity, expanding opportunity, and strengthening the bonds that make it a place where families want to plant roots. The AAPI community contributes to that momentum every day through small businesses that fuel local commerce, cultural programs that enrich public life, and families who strengthen our schools and neighborhoods. Tonight's proclamation affirms that Roseville values these contributions and remains committed to fostering belonging and honoring diversity. And this isn't the first time the city has stood with our community. In February of 2020, this council also issued a Lunar New Year proclamation, just 1 month before a global pandemic shut the world down. In 2021, when we held a candlelight vigil after the Atlanta shooting tragedy, this council showed up again, standing with us during a painful moment of rising anti-Asian harassment and violence. We have not forgotten that support. Your leadership then and now strengthens trust, reduces cultural barriers, and creates opportunities for families to thrive. It inspires us to continue expanding cultural programming, supporting local businesses, and creating safe, affirming spaces where AAPI residents can celebrate their traditions and build new ones. So whether you hear it in Vietnamese, Chúc mừng năm mới, Cantonese, San Nhing Phai Lo, Mandarin, Xin Yin Qua Le, or perhaps Korean, Saya Bok Mani Badisayo, Happy Lunar New Year. May the year of the Fire Horse illuminate our path with its fierce spirit, calling us to step forward with strength, resilience, and a shared commitment to the greater good. Thank you again for this proclamation. We look forward to celebrating the Lunar New Year with all of Roseville in the weeks ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Just one more quick thing. I just encourage everybody to go out, eat lots of dumplings, noodles for longevity, round things.
We have 5 recommendations.
All right, you guys ready for a picture?
Well, you guys topped the school.
Okay.
You topped the school. Wow.
That would be great. Yes.
Over there?
Yes.
You guys ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. You bet. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, bye, thank you. Okay, we will move into public comment and ask our clerk to please read those instructions.
Public comment, so we have one person who submitted one, but you have 3 minutes to make your comments to
Thank
the
you.
council.
Is Justin here?
Yeah, right here.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I appreciate your time. I'm here not only on my own behalf, but on behalf of many residents in the Maidu area who have experienced consistent and prolonged internet disruptions. I'm preaching to the choir with the mayor being a former public affairs officer at SureWest, but reliable internet is essential infrastructure. It affects people's ability to work, run small businesses, attend school, access healthcare, and participate in daily life. When service failures persist at scale and residents receive shifting or inaccurate explanations about why problems aren't being fixed, that becomes a community infrastructure issue, not just a customer service issue. So I run the California office of a national public affairs firm in Sacramento. So I see a ton of polling, I see a ton of focus groups. And what I will tell you is that voters consider reliable broadband access a top quality of life issue, along with public safety and roads. And I'll say that people notice when basic infrastructure works, and they also notice when it doesn't work. Before I go any further, I do want to acknowledge that Matthew Sweet, the city's assistant IT director, has been extremely responsive. He's been professional and is actively working to understand the facts of this issue. I also want to thank Councilmember Albrud, who is the only council member who has personally written me back regarding this issue. So thank you. I have not received a response from the city manager, the city clerk, or other members of the council, despite raising this matter in December. I mention that not as criticism, but to underscore that this issue has now reached the point where council-level awareness and direction is appropriate. In my case, city staff have confirmed several important facts. Comcast consultant submitted permits for neighborhood infrastructure work. The city processed those permits within appropriate timelines. So that's awesome. Thank you. Comcast withdrew one permit and later submitted a new one by its own choice. A new permit was issued in December, and Comcast is currently authorized to perform the work. City records show no delay caused by city processes. Again, the city is doing its job. It's doing its job well. Despite this, for more than a year, Comcast representatives told me in writing, and I sent that on to the city, that it is the city of Roseville who's responsible for delaying the upgrades. The city attorney's office, thank you, contacted Comcast Director of Government Affairs about concerns that Comcast has miscommunicated the causes of delays. Comcast told the city it would review the matter internally and follow up with customers. They haven't done that. I understand the city does not regulate internet pricing and cannot cancel Comcast's statewide franchise. That's not what I'm asking. Roseville does maintain an adopted enforcement pathway for state video franchise holders that includes notice of material breach, opportunity to cure, penalties, and an appeals process. So I'll wrap up right now. I'm requesting that the council direct staff to conduct a formal evidence-based compliance review, aggregate resident complaints, examine outage and service failure patterns, determine whether a pattern of non-compliance exists, and if supported, to issue a formal notice and require a corrective action plan of Comcast. I'm also asking that the city coordinate its findings with the CPUC, or the California Public Utilities Commission, which has already contacted Comcast regarding this matter.
Mr. Pressfield, you're over on your time. Can you just take a
This
few
is my
seconds
last
and wrap
paragraph.
up?
This is not about politics or blame, it's about accountability, accurate communications, and ensuring that that a company using Roseville's public rights of way meets basic service obligations to residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here tonight that would like to make a public comment? Now's your time to come forward.
Hi, Jennifer Chapman. I just have a couple quick things. One is, I will say that we just had another traffic incident, an accident where there was definitely two very damaged vehicles. I don't think there was any fatalities, but it's right there on Sunrise near Coloma at Dutch Brothers. And the concern is, there was a sustained period of two police cars, kind of blocking because they were managing the towing. And it's just, again, it's a place that is access to assisted living facility, primarily where there's a lot of emergency medical traffic. And it's just to highlight that this is a very complex traffic pattern, and there's this emergency medical element there that can be impacted by the complexity. And there's also new development in the back of the property that is going to involve a lot more use potentially of this in and out access road if they don't get through a plan that allows a back of the property regular access from Trimble Way in the single-family home local residential area. So it's just complex. I'm just saying it just happened on kind of the way tonight, just that there was a significant accident. Thank goodness I don't think there's any fatalities or major injuries. But the other big thing is just I'm still kind of gathering information. I mentioned a concern about Arcona, the Roseville Coalition of Neighborhood Associations, and the amount of support that the city gives to this organization which is substantial, and, you know, they're identified very, very boldly as the key sponsors, you know, multiple city logos on Arcona's website as under the sponsor page, and, you know, it's a lot of, you know, waiving of fees for, you know, meeting space, and it's a lot of support, and it just means that I think the city does need to consider, you know, the organization, again, the underlying bylaws of the organization, and hopefully encouraging the organization to acknowledge the renting part of the residential population as equal to the homeowners. And it's just because these are neighborhood associations, and they're all residents, they're all paying sales tax, everybody, renters pay property tax by the rent that they pay and the rent that goes up, probably more than the property tax. So anyway, I'm just saying, please consider the fact that their city is paying, or providing approximately $5,000 a year, you know, for the last 5 years as an average to this organization, and please take an interest in having it be fully representational of the citizens it represents. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here tonight that would like to make an comment for public comment? Now would be your time.
Is it a comment about him or anything?
Anything that's not on the agenda.
I would love,
Not on the agenda.
yes, not on the agenda, I would love to speak.
Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just go to the
Go to the
podium.
podium.
I want 3 minutes?
Yes.
Well, that's my magic number. Hello, and thank you for letting me speak. My name is Scott Remfer, and I'm a Roseville citizen. I live off of Baseline and Fittyment with my 9-year-old beautiful daughter, Chloe Remfer. And she is just the pride of our lives, of course. But she's a superstar in this town, like all the kids are. She dances and she loves martial arts, been training since she was born. Lots of styles of things. A lot of the Asian things are really cool. We like that stuff because it's very relaxed and peaceful. A little background about me is I own a company called Kids Sports USA, which is a nonprofit. And we work with all the school districts, providing after-school wellness and enrichment programs for children so they can put smiles on their faces and so their brains can expand and so they can learn about the other things in life than the things they're being told all the time, right? There's another side to things, always, a yin and a yang to the world. And there's the aggressive things and there's the peaceful side. So in martial arts, I've been doing that for 33 years professionally. As a trainer, a coach, a therapist, a teacher. There's sensei, sifu, means teacher in different languages. It's just a translation of the same word of a teacher, right? So teachers are the most important thing to the world, next to children, because they're the ones that take care of all the children. So I'm Scott Remfer, I run a big nonprofit, and I'm just starting over again after 22 years of working about 18 hours a day at it, and I just volunteered my time. Instead of trying to bring everyone's money involved into it and try to run a business model that way, it was like, no, we bring our police officers, we bring our public people, we bring the moms and dads, we bring everyone. And we all take part in teaching our kids about this stuff, okay? So that's a little about me, but the biggest project I'm doing right now is I became the wellness expert for the State of California Youth Development Department last year. And so they've been studying all my programs for lots of years, but I'm also a professor level at some things, and I graduated a few weeks ago after 46 years of teaching and training. I also play a trumpet for that long, so that's the other thing that I do well, but you'll be hearing that more about that stuff later when you see me on TV. But I'm doing a thing Friday, over at the Bill Santucci Park, which I live right by there. It's the most amazing place, right? It has
Got about 20 seconds,
Yeah,
just warning you.
I'm on it.
So,
And anyway, so there I'm going to have some media, I'm going to have some news, I'm going to have some professional film people. They're all going to be putting me to the test, which is showing what we do in the community. And we're going to be implementing these programs to every school in the state because I've been approved. I'm the #1 expert of it, and they're asking me what to do. So we're doing that now, and thank you for your time. I can't wait to meet you. I'm having lunch with your husband tomorrow, so we'll see you guys soon.
thank you. Is there anyone else here tonight that would like to make a comment that's not on the agenda? Now would be your time. Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. and ask our clerk to read the procedures for the consent calendar.
Great, thank you. So consent calendar items are considered routine in nature and approved by one motion of our city council. All items may be, any item may be pulled for further discussion if that is the wish of the council, staff, or a member of the public. At this time, we have no request by either the council or staff. Is there any member of the public that would like to pull an item for further discussion from consent tonight? Seeing none, Mayor. At this time on consent, the city council will consider consent calendar items 3 through 20. May I please have a motion to
I'll
approve?
move the consent calendar.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with a second. We'll start our roll call with Vice Mayor Albert.
Yes.
Councilmember Haldeshell.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we have a presentation this evening from our Chief of Police for e-scooters, e-bikes, and motorcycles.
I just saw a little baby.
Sir. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and Council. I'm Troy Bergstrom, your Chief of Police, along with Lieutenant Courtney Scoria from our Community Service Division, here tonight to provide you an informational briefing on the laws surrounding e-bikes, our efforts in both education and enforcement, and the legislative landscape related to curbing some of the issues we have seen occurring. Lieutenant Scoria is over our traffic enforcement team, and I'm going to turn it over to her for a majority of the discussion, and then at the end, I'll cover legislative efforts once she's finished. So Lieutenant Scoria?
All right, good evening. Tonight I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background on some of the e-devices that we see in the city, talk a little bit about some of the statistics that the department kind of saw last year, some of the efforts that our department has taken, and then kind of roll that into some things that you can do as a potential consumer of these devices, a parent, or a community member. So starting off, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on what I would kind of consider the 3 top categories of e-devices. The first one being e-scooters. Basically, an e-scooter is a scooter that is 2-wheeled device that has handlebars, either a floorboard or a seat, and it's powered by an electric motor. Go ahead. All right, so some of the things to consider, when these are all coming out of the vehicle code. You're welcome to take a look at the codes if you want more information. There's plenty other laws, but these are some of the most prevalent ones that I think that people should hear about. The biggest one is when it comes to an e-scooter, a rider has to have either a valid permit or a license. The thing there is that if it's a middle school age child, they cannot ride an e-scooter. They have a maximum speed of 15 miles an hour. All devices are going to require a helmet under 18, so you'll hear me say that a couple different times. And for this one, you cannot ride an e-scooter on a sidewalk. It must use the bike lane or the bike paths or trails unless it's prohibited otherwise. And for an e-scooter, you cannot carry a passenger on your e-scooter. The next category being e-bikes. These are bicycles. These are bicycles that are equipped with fully operable pedals. They do have an electric motor that does not exceed 750 watts of power, and they are broken down into 3 different classes: Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. So as far as the lower level, Class 1 is going to be a pedal-assisted electric motor, whereas a Class 2 e-bike is going to have a throttle-assisted electric motor. These do have a top speed of 20 miles an hour, and after that, the motor ceases. And then they are obviously required to have a helmet, and they can be operated where normal bicycles are, on sidewalks, bike paths, etc. The next category is a Class 3 e-bike or bicycle. These are going to be equipped with pedal-assisted electric motors. The main difference between your Class 1 and your Class 2 is that Class 3 have a top speed of 28 miles an hour. These also have an age requirement. You must be 16 years age or older to have a Class 3 e-bike, have a helmet, and these cannot be ridden on paths or trails unless there's an ordinance that permits them to. The next category. So this is the last category we'll cover before we jump into some more detail. These are e-motorcycles. The biggest definition, or I guess the thing I want you to know about e-motorcycles, something new that came effective of January of this year was that they added actually a vehicle code section, and it specifically defines what an off-highway electric motorcycle is. It classifies an off-highway electric motorcycle as an off-highway motor vehicle, and thereby subjecting them to all the same rules and regulations of an off-highway motor vehicle. The thing about e-motorcycles is they're very often incorrectly marketed, and they're very often referred to as e-bikes. And they are not bicycles. These are motorcycles. There's quite a few different operational restrictions. I think the biggest thing I want to make sure everybody walks away with is that no e-motorcycle can be ridden in any public place within the city of Roseville. No roads, no bike lanes, no sidewalks, no bike paths, no green space. Really, the only two places that an e-motorcycle can be operated is on private property or at an off-highway road park or off OHV park, we call them. And that's only after they have been registered with DMV and they display the appropriate OHV sticker, whether it's green or red. A couple additional items just to this page is sometimes people say, okay, well, I'll just add pedals to it and make it a bicycle. That is illegal. So there's nothing that can be done to an e-motorcycle to make it street legal. You'll hear that term. They cannot be altered. They were manufactured specifically for off-highway use. They are only to be used off-highway, and there are no exceptions to that. So now that we've talked a little bit about the three different classes, talk a little bit about 2025 for our police department and for the community. I'm going to go over some of these statistics here. I'll dive into a couple different categories. 2025 was the first year for our department that we started trying to track some of the statistics surrounding e-devices. So the way that we did that, obviously, there is still room for improvement because of again, some of the things that you hear, e-bike, e-motorcycle, e-scooter. There's lots of different versions of the words that people use to describe them. So a couple different areas. We'll talk a little bit about calls for service. So you'll see two different boxes up there. One of them says officer-initiated CFS, which is a call for service, and then below that being a citizen-generated call for service. Collectively, the biggest thing to see under the citizen-generated calls for service is that average every month, we get about 3,800 citizen-generated calls for service. That is not about e-devices. Those are just generated calls for service. But of those calls for service, about 1.5% of those is related to what we categorize as a PEV, a personal electric vehicle or a personal electric device. That's just a term we're using to capture all the different e-devices. So about 1.5% a month is related to some type of e-device. Of the calls that we receive, so 77% of the calls we receive in regards to e-devices are citizen-generated. The officers initiate about 22% of those calls. In regards to the total calls or the actions taken, some of the snapshot data to share with you is we issued about 37 citations in 2025 for a specific code section, which is 12500 of the vehicle code, that is driving without a license. Those are juvenile citations to kids who are on e-devices when they are mandated to have a license in order to operate those vehicles. And then 23, it says arrest. I don't want to misguide you. That's a misdemeanor type citation or an actual physical arrest that can capture both of those categories. And then moving over to the collision data on the side, this is just to share a little bit about some of the bicycle-specific collisions. In the city last year, we had 65 bicycle collisions. Of those 65, 20 of those were basically 31% of those were related to an electric bicycle or a PEV, we call it. Of those, 75% of those, the bicyclist was at fault, specific to the e-bicycles, and 80% of those were juveniles on e-bikes. The department obviously has taken many different efforts to combat all of the different e-devices that have popped up. This is a complicated issue. This is something that requires many different efforts. For our department, the main two categories to kind of talk about here is education and enforcement. Our main goal obviously is to educate people so that they make good decisions. They don't buy devices they shouldn't. Kids shouldn't ride devices they shouldn't. So some of the things specifically that we did over this last year is we have our school resource officers. They spoke at the incoming freshman classes, which is a parent-specific orientation, to try to reach the parents, because most of the parents buy the e-devices for the children. We're trying to reach the parents. Our traffic unit has presented to a handful of local schools specifically about bicycle safety, some of those in collaboration with our local fire department. We've put out social media posts. We do attend regular neighborhood meetings where we do talk about, this is a topic that comes up regularly. We always are available to answer questions at the neighborhood meetings. We've also partnered with some of the local school districts to create different safety videos, as well as school newsletter messaging that we'll send out to help just, again, continue to try to educate everyone about the laws that surround them and some of the do's and some of the don'ts. Obviously, education is just one component of what the police department can do. We also have a very, we're concerned about the safety of the roadways, right? You just talked about collisions. Obviously, one of our biggest things, and I am the lieutenant in charge of our traffic unit, is maintaining the safety of the people on the roadway in Roseville. So we do have a Office of Traffic Safety Funded Enforcement. That's a grant that we get, and we do put together specific operations. A couple of those have been focused on bicycle safety, as well as specifically about e-bicycles and e-motorcycles. And obviously, outside of special operations and all the things listed here, officers regularly are out in the community engaging with the youth. We are not always taking enforcement action. Our goal is to educate so that we don't have to take away people's e-scooters or e-bicycles or e-motorcycles. So they're often out in the community reaching out with the kids, trying to educate them and their parents so that we can make an improvement on some of the complaints that we see. So the last thing for me, before I turn it back over to the chief, is just a couple tips. These are know before you buy, know before you ride. If you are a parent or a consumer who is looking to have an e-device of any sort, I can't stress enough, please make sure that, ask yourself a few questions, right? Are you or your child experienced enough riding or knowledgeable enough about the rules of the road? Is the device that you're considering legal based on the vehicle code and where you plan to, or your child plans to ride it? Take the time to do the research. I've unfortunately talked to many parents who are upset that their child's Suron was taken. I can't stress enough that you have to do the research. You have to educate yourself before you make that purchase. Just because Johnny down the street has one doesn't mean that you should get one for your child. And then the know before you rides. Obviously, please be educated on the laws surrounding your device. Be aware of where you can ride it legally within the city of Roseville, and then be prepared, unfortunately, if you do something that you didn't do all the things I just asked you to do, be prepared to possibly receive a citation for a violation if you happen to be in that position. So.
Next, we want to move in and talk a little bit about the law and regulations related to e-bikes. Over the last year, complaints about e-bikes rapidly overtook every other complaint that I would get, either that would come in emails to me, and emails to the council, to the city manager, when I would go to community meetings. All other things dwindled away as the complaints from our community came specific to e-bikes. One of the first things that usually happens is, as these discussions happen, is what is the city going to do about this to change a law? So we're going to talk about laws because this is actually a state law issue, not a city ordinance related issue. And so as Lieutenant Scria went through her slides, she talked about all the different vehicle codes and all the various things that apply. And so on one hand, those regulations are numerous. On the other hand, they lack in what we need to actually address what some of these problems are. The hard part is that state law restricts what we as a city are allowed to do on a local level by passing local ordinances related to this, because all of the things that Lieutenant Scria talked about are part of the California Vehicle Code. We are not allowed to pass city ordinances that then impact the vehicle code that covers the state as a whole. So there's some very few places that we can do that related to parking and some other things, but in general, we can't create a city ordinance that then impacts a vehicle code. Like, we cannot pass a city ordinance that is a Roseville city ordinance related to speeding, because there is a vehicle code related to speeding. And so one of the things we're looking at this year is how do we change those state laws, and I'll talk about that here in a second. An example of how convoluted some of these laws are, as you looked at what Lieutenant Scria put together, we actually have a chart that has over 30 boxes on it that talk about all these different laws. And can you imagine if you're a police officer driving down the street and you see someone on an e-bike, now you have to figure out where this fits on one of these charts. Where is this illegal? Is what they're riding is illegal? Is their age range illegal? Are they allowed to be here? Are they allowed to be there? Which kind of a bike this is? Is it a regular e-bike, or is it the e-motorcycle that looks just like the other e-bike? And you're supposed to figure all this out while you're driving next to the person, deciding if you're going to make an enforcement stop or not. And we actually have two different charts, one we have from another agency and one from ours, trying to help officers sort these out. And it's far too convoluted for any kind of enforcement. So if it's too convoluted for us on the enforcement end, what about our parents that are trying to buy these? When you go to the store, the marketing is there for one thing, to help you buy the e-bike. It is not there to tell you the regulations and rules surrounding the e-bike. And so if the laws are convoluted for us when we're meant to enforce them, imagine being a parent who has your kid in the store and all they want is this e-bike. And you're probably not going to pull up all these laws on your phone to figure out if you're buying the right one or not. And so part of some efforts we're working on is how do we make these laws more consistent and easier to use. As I mentioned, we cannot create regulations that impact e-bikes as a city specific to e-bikes. The way the law reads is if we create a ordinance of any kind, it impacts all bicycles. And really the only one we could look at is whether or not e-bikes or bicycles as a whole are allowed to be ridden on sidewalks. The vehicle code allows us to treat that as a city ordinance. Right now, we do restrict bicycle riding on the sidewalks, but it is only in certain districts. In our business districts downtown and in Old Town, we don't restrict it elsewhere. But it's a pretty limited area in which the city can draft an ordinance. But keep in mind, anything that you would look at, if it impacts e-bikes, it also affects all other bicycles. I know you're aware that some other cities have enacted some works with their local school districts in order to present school rules as far as which e-bike could be ridden to school. One of the concerns that we have in particular is the Class 2 e-bikes. As I mentioned, the rules are all different all over the place. There's age restrictions on some, there's not age restrictions on others, and Class 2 e-bikes don't have an age restriction. So you find 12, 13, 14-year-old kids riding them to school. And so local jurisdiction nearby worked with their school district and passed an ordinance that restricted riding Class 2 e-bikes to school. So we looked at that. Could that impact anything here in our city? What became readily apparent is the logistical ability to actually have that passed here it's not going to work. In that particular city, there's one school district, one school board to deal with. In our city, there are 5 different school districts. They cross 2 county jurisdictions and go all the way to the city of Sacramento. So if you can imagine trying to get 5 city councils to all pass the same ordinance, that's what we would be trying to do with 5 different school districts to pass some kind of a school rule that is then only enforceable by the schools. It's not something that we could do. And so we looked at that as far as would it be impactful for us in our city, and we don't think it would be. We've looked more along the lines of where our schools can help us when it comes to education, which is what Lieutenant Scurry talked about, some of her team has done. So while I say all that, it probably sounds like, well, what are we going to do? We can't do much about it. That's not actually true. There is some significant work on the horizon for changing the California Vehicle Code to give us more tools to use, to give consumers more tools to use so they understand what they're buying. I'm a part of the California Police Chiefs Association who is taking the lead in doing that currently. There are a number of bills that are, we're right in the beginning of the bill process. And so I can't tell you specifics to those right now because they're still formulating all of those as they get into the beginning of the legislative year. But there are a number of pieces of legislation moving forward this year to help us with this. This is a statewide issue. It's probably beyond our state. Every quarter, our Chiefs Association gets together with chiefs from all over the state. This has rapidly become the top issue that we all deal with in our cities. We are not the only police department and city council that has had this very conversation that we're having right now. And so through our Chiefs Association and working with the state legislature, we're hoping this year that we can clarify some of these vehicle codes, give us some better tools to use, give consumers and parents a better idea of what it is that they're actually buying and what the rules are around what they're buying, and so that we can help reduce some of the issues we're seeing. The last thing is aside from these legislative fixes, and Lieutenant Scurry mentioned it with parents, we can have help come from our parents today. We don't need the vehicle code change for our parents to look at what they're buying their kids and understand what these bikes can do and how fast they can go. And they can understand whether or not their kids are capable of handling that. There's some 16-year-old kids that can ride these bikes, no problem. There's some 25-year-olds that probably shouldn't be riding these bikes. But as parents, look at these things, understand can your child accurately manage what this bike can do. Because they go some significant speeds, up to 28 miles per hour. And with Class 2 e-bikes, there isn't an age restriction. You can be 12 years old. Can a 12-year-old really drive something that goes 20? Would you put him in your car driving 28 miles an hour? I'm pretty sure the answer is no to that. And so our parents can help us today. They can look at these rules today. They can understand what their kids can do. They can also manage their behavior. Some of the biggest complaints that we get are behaviors that occur. Not necessarily related to the riding, but what people do, from store parking lots to bike trails. These are behaviors that can be controlled by parents to know what their kids are doing. So on one side, We're working on what we can do on enforcement. We're working on what we can do on legislative changes for better laws that can help us. But we also ask our parents, pay attention to what your kids are doing, pay attention to what you're buying them. Because in the end, if they get hurt and you bought them a bike that goes 28 miles an hour, and you're not properly parenting them for how to ride something like that, it's your child that's getting hurt. And so we need that help from our parents. We cannot possibly be on every road, every trail, every parking lot in the city, but our parents can. They see their kids every day, they see their kids with these bikes every day, so we're kind of asking for some help on that end. With that, that's the end of our presentation. This is an informational-only presentation. We don't have a recommendation for any ordinances or anything, but we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you both very much. Does council have questions?
Yeah, you mentioned that it requires a license. Is some of the legislation that you and the chiefs statewide are looking at also look at registration of these vehicles?
So bicycles themselves, now the e-motorcycles have to be registered in a different way, but bicycles themselves, though, like a licensing for like a car, not on that end. We're looking more along the lines of how can we regulate speeds? How can we regulate safety factors? Our best guess is the things we're looking at are not all gonna get passed in the first year. So let's take the things that are safety related first, and so that's kind of the direction we're headed right now.
Okay, because I know when SACOG took a study mission trip to Denver, one of the things they found was, that commuters, people in the central business district were taking e-scooters further than they anticipated in the traffic model. So it is an alternative to, your regular vehicle. So, and then last thing to underscore your point, at SACOG last week, the consultants of the Senate Transportation Committee, when asked what the top 3 issues would be, number 1, e-bikes, e-vehicles, and things like that. So, thank you, Chief.
Any other questions of staff?
I was interested in what you were saying about bicycle etiquette, because I think a lot of times that's where we get some people to come to council too, where it's not particularly the kids riding home from school, and going the crosswalk, they're just coming from school, but it's the one maybe at the grocery store, and 4 or 5 of them decide to do wheelies in front of your car. Do you see with some of the education maybe you're doing with parents you can't say, watch your kids, watch who they hang around with, or, if they're gonna go after somebody. I've seen that, I've had that happen to me once. It just kind of, it's scary because the kids will do something stupid in front of your car with bikes too. This was a bike, it wasn't an e-bike, but doing
Harder
that
on
kind
an
of thing.
e-bike, it's
We
heavier.
frequently, I don't want to front off any particular shopping center in the city, but there is one that we frequently get calls for service for exact that kind of behavior, where we've worked with the shopping center. Hard part is when you go on a private property, some of the vehicle codes don't apply, so then it becomes as a trespassing issue. That particular shopping center's hired security to help us with it because of those exact issues of kids riding through the parking lots. And it makes its waves around our local social media in a hurry with some of the behaviors. And that's exactly what I was talking about behaviors. That's a parent fixable behavior.
Yeah, it's a parent thing.
But yes, that is something we see.
I have a couple questions. So for the off-road the e-motorcycles, can private businesses like those shopping centers put signs like the downtown and other shopping districts have done to allow you more authority to remove?
So the off-road ones are completely illegal. You can't ride those at all. We will tow those and impound those.
Okay, even if they're in a shopping center on private
Doesn't matter,
property?
yeah, they are,
Okay.
only as Lieutenant Scurria mentioned, they are allowed on your own, like, private property. If you own, property out in the country, you want to ride them, feel free. If you're at one of the OHV areas, you can ride them there, but not like in the shopping center. And so the majority of the e-bikes that we have impounded have all been the e-motorcycles.
Okay, and I know we have had residents that have asked for increased city ordinances, so thank you for some of that clarity, because, it's helpful to know that we have very little authority to do local ordinances if it's vehicle code. And frankly, some of the things I think are not allowed currently, but they're doing it, even in the absence of like changing an ordinance or a vehicle code. One of the other questions I had, and I thought I heard you say something, is part of the advocacy at a legislative level looking at the retailers of those off-road e-bikes and whether there might be more notifications that need to be part of that sale?
So not just the off-road, like the e-motorcycles, but all of them. And so one of the things that's being looked at is something like that. How do you, at the point of sale, provide some of that information? Because as a parent going in the store, you're not gonna know, unless you've really done your research and looked at all these things or have, you know, heard about concerns and decided to do your research, they're not gonna print that and stick it on the box when you go to buy the e-bike. And so that is one of the things that's being looked at, is how from the manufacturer level, whether it's, you know, restricting the speeds or anything else, the wattage, those kinds of things, so that when they sell them, they can only go to a certain level, or is it informational based from the retailer? So that is all in the works. So how do you work better with the retailer to help control some of the issues? So yes, all of that is up for look.
Thank you. You answered most of my questions in your presentation, so
was
thank
good.
you. Appreciate it.
I have a few questions. Is there a age limit on the Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes? No age limit?
When the age is.
No,
yes.
the only class 3 is 16 and older. Class
Okay.
1 and 2 can be any age.
Is it most problematic, I would imagine, with middle school ages? 12, 13, 14, because they don't have a license yet. I mean, that's what we hear most too from,
I'm gonna go off my
emails.
own eyeballs of what I see, because I live here too, and then what I see driving around, and yes, that seems to be the age range, is your middle school to younger high school, is what we tend to see. Last September, when we ran an operation through the grant that Lieutenant Scurria talked about, it was a little bit older ages where we found like the e-motorcycles that we were pounding. And so I would say if you had to put the bulk of them, yeah, they are that middle to lower end high school age.
Yep.
Where we have the most concerns, but it can go, you know, up older as well.
so is it accurate to say that if you have a middle school student who is riding an e-scooter around, that's illegal?
That's illegal, yeah.
So it happens, as you know, all day. So what enforcement can be done there when they get to school, when they leave school, when they have one at school? Because that's what I see and read about, is that it's really the middle school age kids who don't yet have this like frontal lobe developed in terms of like a license. So it's happening right in front of us. What more can we be doing? Because my fear is that this hasn't reached the worst yet. And, you know, I don't know if the citation goes to the child or the parent, but it seems like that's like really the low-hanging fruit, is grabbing them when they're on their way to school.
So I think one of the things that we look at, and this is, I guess, more of an enforcement philosophy, we have looked at the younger ages as more of an education piece. Police officers citing 12-year-olds is not really where I want to go. The education end of it, of trying to hit that angle, which through the school resource officer team, that's where we've tried to do that. Because having police officers stop 12 and 13-year-old kids, that's not really where an enforcement viewpoint that I look at as being something I see our officers doing. And so I look at it more of as an education piece. I know at the beginning of this school year, we had our SROs in front of the schools doing different things. But then you also look at it from the angle of, this is where I talk about the confusing laws. So you can't be 13 and ride a scooter, but you can be 13 and ride a class 1 or 2 e-bike that goes faster than the scooter. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of like common sense in the law that says that you can't ride a scooter, but you can ride a class 1 and 2 e-bike that goes way faster than what the scooter does. And so that's where you look at some of those things of where the law is different. And so now we're gonna tell the 12-year-old you can't ride the scooter, so they're just gonna put them on an e-bike that goes faster. And so that's where some of these things they're a little bit convoluted. We have tended to go more towards the education piece with the younger kids versus enforcement. Just because of, like I said, us giving tickets to 12-year-old, 13-year-olds riding scooters, I don't know that's the image
Yeah.
want to see from us.
Well, the flip side is that I'd rather see them stop than see them dead.
Well, yeah,
And so
that's
I-
where we're trying the enforcement side, or the
Yeah.
education side of it to stop that.
It's just real, it's much easier. I understand a little bit the class 1 and 2 because I get that all faster, but you can't tell, there's not an age restriction on that. But the scooters are really easy to spot what a scooter is. And I appreciate all the work that you're doing. I just feel like it's not working. It's not working or it's not enough. Like, they need to be, and I don't know if it's cited, but they need to be impounded. Like, they're not, if it's illegal, and it's just like a major safety. I mean, I think probably most of us in this room have almost hit one of them or have seen or been run over on a trail or, you know. So I just would encourage you all, I mean, I can't speak for the entire council, but, I mean, you have my complete support on leveling up on the enforcement and impounding them and get, you know, because I just don't think that the education is necessarily working. And then, you know, at the middle school level, I know you talked about 5 districts that extend into different counties, but we also have just 3 K through 8 districts, and it seems like maybe we just work with them first, like maybe that's more doable, you know, your Rika, Dry Creek.
I had
But whatever support you need from
Yeah.
us, I feel like you have it, that I'm really worried about this.
So one of the concerns that districts have, and I know this just from some conversations I have, is they don't want to be in the enforcement side of things. And if a district passes a rule, we cannot enforce that. And so then it becomes the district can pass a rule, but who's going to stand on the street and enforce that rule? Is it going to be teachers? Is it going to be, like, who's going to do that? Because we can't enforce a school rule. And so that's been one of the concerns. That's been one of the concerns with the cities that have done that, is who's supposed to enforce that rule. And because if it's a school rule, we can't enforce it. It's school-based rules. It's no different than any other school rule. And so we had, and this has been an ongoing discussion for the last couple of months. So it's not a discussion where we said we're done with that. It's what's the best way it's going to fit in our city, because where it fits in our city may not be the same as how it fits in others. It's been an ongoing discussion for the last 3 or 4 months of what that could look like.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's not, it wouldn't be a school rule. This e-scooter is a state law that
that
it's
one, yes, I'm
illegal.
talking about.
So I think word would get out really quickly if there was a really strong enforcement and they were impounded or, you know, whatever, however it works, you know, a certain period before it goes back to the parents. I mean, that would send a strong message to the community. That, like, it's illegal and it's a safety risk. Like, I know there's already been, you know, significant injuries that have happened, but I'm fearful that we haven't seen the worst of it.
Chief, are you aware of schools that have prohibited the riding of e-scooters or e-bikes? It seems like I read a story somewhere, maybe it was national, where they just didn't have the facility to, you know, of the bike locker facility for this?
I'm aware of ones that have restricted what kind of e-bike you can ride to school, but I'm not aware of one that just said you can't ride them at all.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the council before I open up to
think
public?
I would just want to echo what you're saying. And regarding the scooters, is it the parents that get cited if you were to stop kids on a scooter?
Well, no, it would depend on what it was. If you have a child that's not wearing a helmet, the kid can get cited. If you have like we've had some in the past, if we have a multiple offender who's riding like one of the e-motorcycles and doesn't have a license, and the parent is aware of that, then we can cite the parent. And so, like I said, the biggest one for like helmets and things like that is for the kid. Well, that's one of the things I'm talking about. Like, you know, us walking into a juvenile court with a bunch of kids that we're giving tickets to, that can be problematic too. That's why we've gone the education side of it. I mean, we can do things like that. There's going to be an opposite reaction to that too. So, so it's the kids that get tickets. Now the parents are the ones that have to deal. It's no different if your 16-year-old's driving is speeding and gets a speeding ticket. You don't get that ticket. They get the ticket. It's the same way.
I'm sorry, Mayor, it just prompted another question. Do we have a census on how many of each of these classes exist in the city of Roseville?
No.
Okay, that would be valuable. Is there a restriction on time of day in which, and is that being considered? Because I know when I was, in the fall, sunlight and darkness, you see the scooters, and even if they're lit, they're hard to see. So maybe a restriction on time of day.
Restrictions on, same as other bicycles about you have to have lights on them at night,
Right.
reflectors at night, things like that. You can't restrict e-bikes any different than regular bicycles, so you can't say you can't ride a bicycle at 2 o'clock in the morning. The vehicle code does say that you have to at night have a light on the front, reflector on the back, those kinds of things. But I'm not aware of any way to restrict time of day on when you can ride. Because again, you can't treat any of these devices any different than regular bicycles.
Right.
So if you were to say, and again, you can't do that on a muni code, so if you did it on it wouldn't pass as a vehicle code, but if you tried, you would have to restrict all bicycles, and they would not be able to be ridden in those hours.
Yeah, not me, but I know some folks that do triathlons, and I think on their road bikes, they can go 40 miles an hour, so, right?
Okay, are we done with now?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
I
we
think
can-
I would just add a comment.
And
that
then
I-
we'll come back too, but go ahead.
Yeah, I just think unless there's more enforcement on the scooters for the consequences for the parents, that it's not gonna change, and it doesn't seem like it's getting better as long as parents, keep sending their kids to school and letting them kind of roam the streets and neighborhoods.
I feel like in my neighborhood, every kid has, that's how they're getting to school. Every kid has one, a scooter.
Sometimes doubled up.
I know I'm
and
preaching to the choir, you
without
guys all know
helmets.
this. Okay, I appreciate, this is really informational, I think not just for us, but I think the community too. I'll open up to public comment. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this item? Now would be your time to come forward.
I've got something to ask. The scooters, are they allowed on the
So
sidewalk?
this is just an opportunity to make public comment, it's not a dialogue
not
back and
about
forth.
this?
It's about this, but you did make a comment to us.
Well, okay,
We're not-
are the scooters allowed on the sidewalk? I'm sorry, my name
No.
is Laura Beebe. They're not allowed on the sidewalk. So if they're not allowed on the sidewalk, this is my suggestion. Where do they get parked at the school? Okay, so why can't they get impounded there? Why can't law enforcement come by and pick up the scooters that are at the school? Wouldn't that deter the parents from allowing the kids to drive,
That's kinda like
ride the?
So it's just
scooters?
an opportunity for you to make a comment, so it's
Well,
not
that
a-
was my
that's your
comment.
comment.
That's
Okay.
my comment,
Yeah,
so.
thank you for that.
Okay.
I appreciate your concern. All right, if anyone else, come forward, please.
Hi, Lance Subin with the Maidu Neighborhood Association Board, and yeah, this is a hot topic. Our last meeting, we had some very animated parent that had concerns about how her son was being treated by a variety of people in the neighborhood regarding his riding style. But anyway, I wanted to say that I understand, or I thought I understood, that the city of Roseville had shifted from education to enforcement already, and those enforcement numbers were increasing, but the problem isn't going away. And the other issue, which is well taken, is the laws are very confusing. I mean, if you just look at the Class 1 and 2 pedal versus the Class 3 pedal and the throttle, the only difference I saw was the speed that they're capable of, and I don't know how you really distinguish that when you're trying to enforce the law. Anyway, my point that I wanted to make is our neighborhood association wants to offer what we could do to assist the schools, the police, the retailers, whatever we can do to help educate our citizens. And I think that the education at the schools is a good thing. However, I think that we might need to start earlier, like at the elementary schools, and start educating them at that level and get them understanding, even maybe before they even have an e-bike or scooter. Of course, they can't have a scooter, but so I would really like to see Arcona step up and get involved and assist in some way. It seemed like there was one other thing I wanted to say. Well, I guess that's it.
We've all been there.
Yeah,
You'll think of it later.
yeah.
Okay, anyone else?
I'm also with the Maidu Neighborhood Association, and I did want to bring up a different, Lance said we had a very upset neighbor about the way her son is being approached by adults. So it's another whole side to the problem, is apparently he's been followed, he's been, his helmet was thrown down a ravine. Things have happened, and what I see, she got into it with another neighbor that had followed her son. So we have a whole issue out there of angry non-parents trying to deal with these kids. And so if we could, and I don't even know what the approach would be, but educating the public of how it's okay to, or not okay to interact with somebody on an e-bike, not to follow them, not to chase them, not to make them afraid. Apparently, he's come home very afraid. So I don't know where that would go, but I'd like that also included in what we're doing as far as education on the e-bikes.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I had already emailed one of the police folks, and I'll email it to wider audience, but there are these, they mentioned the registration stickers, and there is this pot of money from the sticker, the red stickers and the green stickers, I can't keep them all straight, but for OHV, it's a state commission on off-highway vehicles, and they have grants, and some of the grant money goes to law enforcement specifically, so definitely something to look at. And anyway, but, there's also just this huge regional side to this, and all the exciting work on the East Dry Creek Trail just brings up how regional it is. And so, you have to think about educating kids outside of Roseville too, because a lot of this traffic is going to be, going far and wide. Like, I was really amazed just talking to some of the middle school kids in my neighborhood, like they routinely go to Folsom. It's just like kids go farther on bikes these days because the bikes can take them farther. And so it's a whole cultural thing of whatever that means, like just spending a lot of time in other cities and, these other influences. So there's a lot of other aspects. So those were just a couple comments, but the OHV grants is definitely a great resource. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So I appreciate you all having this forum, and I appreciate the chief and lieutenant for, lieutenant, sergeant, sorry?
Yes, Lieutenant.
Lieutenant, I appreciate that. I think one thing is important as a parent who has a kid who's 13 who rides a class 1 e-bike to and from school on the sidewalk, recently got a concussion on the e-bike, even though he was wearing a helmet. I take these matters very seriously, and he had to miss, school for a week because of that. I think, and I went and educated to buy him that bike, make sure it was legal, and talked to him a lot about, rules of the road and all that kind of stuff. I think the council maybe perhaps is looking at this through an enforcement lens, a stick, as opposed to a carrot lens. And there may be a great way of incentivizing parents to purchase class 1 and 2 e-bikes if we were to offer, say, a $25 rebate on purchases made in the city of Roseville for normal bikes or class 1 e-bikes. I could see stores, retailers, local retailers in Roseville really liking that as a way to drive business to their shops. Say, if you want to buy a class 1 or 2 for your kid, you get $25 off your bike. Anyway, I just suggest that we look at carrots as well as sticks as we go through this process. Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
So just as a dad and a parent, I was on the Dry Creek Trail yesterday. I go like every day, and I do my little sunset bike ride, listen to some music, relax, end the day, right? Doing the normal thing. It's pretty busy out there yesterday, and there was these 3 kids, and the guy's doing the wheelie thing.
Yeah.
Like all the way at 30, probably miles. It had to be 20 miles an hour, 25. I mean, this kid was like 11, 12, and he was flying. I had to move out of the way because I saw it coming, and I just see things coming ahead of time a lot, and I just moved out of the way and just, oh, this is going to be bad. And then and right when I did that, the kid just swerved around a baby, a newborn that was probably 2 weeks old in a baby carriage with the parents, and it was like, so I just made a comment to the kids as the 2 others came, hey man, you guys stop that right now. That's not okay. And I just kept going. 5 minutes later, these 3 kids come around me like they're gangsters, and they surround me, like me. Like, 10th degree black belt? Like, what? Okay. And I was like, what are you guys up to, man? Like, that was not okay. Do you realize there was a baby in there? And then the kid, the young one that did it, he says, yes, I came back to say I'm sorry to you. Because I could tell you were upset. And I said, dude, I'm a teacher, dude. That's not cool. What happens if that baby got hit right there? What do you think is going to happen in your life? Are you going to feel bad about that? And I was just like, and he just looked at me, and these kids just went, yes, sir. And they listened. And I said, man, dude, like, so I believe what you were doing was the right thing, sir, Mr. Chief, that the education is the key. You have half of it. This is what I do. I'm a professor of this. You have half of it. I'm the outside person who only works for me, and I have all the budget. So, as of now, I'll just implement this today. Kids Sports USA is having a new program. It's going to go to every school in the Roseville community, and we're going to go do a little assembly, a little workshop, just a little hello. Let's pump you up, kids. Let's have some fun. I got some friends that like to do cool stuff, and they'll come do it with me too. And then we'll just talk about, hey, there's these things you're on, these bikes, you guys. Let's talk about the safety. Let's just give you the ins and outs of what the repercussions of your actions are. Then you guys take it away from there. So that would be my suggestion. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for what you're doing. Yeah, I'm not letting my daughter go on that trail by herself. So thank you. She's way too important to me. So loud. A concussion and to change her whole career.
Is there anyone else tonight that would like
Over some
to,
teenager who's just dumb.
anyone else tonight that would like to comment on this item? Now would be your time to come forward. Okay, seeing none, we'll
Mayor, I had one more question, Chief. Do we still have, a year or so ago, we approved a contract, I don't know if Jill's here, she's somewhere within earshot, with American River Bike Patrol? Could they be the eyes and the ears for us, Chief and Lieutenant Scoria?
Talking about the trail ambassadors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Could they assist with the education? And has that been explored? So, you don't have to answer, I'll just throw it.
Jill, and she's way over there.
Just let me do it, I will just handle it. Tomorrow.
Okay,
Yep.
anything else before we move on?
Thank you, Chief.
We're working with you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. The next item before us is the fiscal year 2024-25 fourth quarter report and budget adjustment.
You might want to talk to me.
Sir, we're having a meeting. If you want to have a conversation, you can head outside.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Scott Pettengill, Finance Director, and with me tonight is Nancy Roethlisberger, Assistant Finance Director, and Jackie Rice, our new Budget Manager, who are helping out on the next item. So tonight, we're presenting the year-end budget report for fiscal year 24-25, and that covers the period from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th of 2025. And this report will provide an overview of the city's financial performance over the past year, and it will also include a recommendation for a budget adjustment related to the year-end general fund surplus. So I'm going to start with a high-level overview of the year-end results, and then I'm going to turn it over to Nancy, who will walk you through the fourth quarter details, including the year-end results for the general fund, our enterprise funds, and some other notable funds. Once Nancy has finished up, I'll wrap up with an overview of the recommended budget adjustment that's also included in this item. So starting with an overview, this report will cover the fiscal year that ended on June 30th, 2025, as I mentioned before. The focus of this item is our fourth quarter budget report, which highlights two key areas. The first is budget to actual differences and the year-end budget surplus for the general fund. Our staff, along with an independent auditor, have completed the city's annual comprehensive financial report, or ACFR, and this is our audited financial statement for the year, and that was approved by the council as a consent item earlier this evening. Finance staff have summarized the budget results into this year-end report that Nancy will review shortly, and this report focuses on the city's primary funds, although it's important to note here that the city does manage over 200 funds each year. Before I hand off to Nancy, though, I did want to take a moment to acknowledge the finance accounting team and staff across the city for all their help in closing the books. The year-end process is complex. It takes many months and many hours of work, and we're fortunate enough to have just an amazing team of financial professionals working for the city. And I also want to recognize and shout out our accounting manager, Terry Quinlan, and our accounting supervisor, Fawn Ramirez, for all their outstanding work and leadership through this year's process. So with that, I'm going to hand off the presentation to Nancy.
Okay. Thanks, Scott. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Before I get going, I want to thank Alexandra Marquez. She's a budget analyst in our group, and she creates our quarterly reports. And thanks to her, you have that report in your packet tonight. And this evening, I'm going to begin with an overview of FY25 general fund operating results. Here's an overview. You can see at the bottom, the general fund ended FY25 with an $11.6 million surplus. And that's comprised of nearly $5.5 million in revenues that were received over budget, and that's about 2% above our estimates, and $6.2 million in expenditure savings. That's about 3% below our estimates, and that results in $11.6 million. Looking more closely at general fund results, this table is an overview of our larger revenue sources and the factors that have contributed to the $5.4 million positive results for those. For sales tax at the top, our Bradley Burns exceeded its budget by $747,000. Measure B exceeded its estimate by $680,000. Combined, this is a $1.3 million surplus for our sales taxes. Our property tax revenues exceeded their estimates by $1.6 million. They reached $76.7 million this year compared to our $75.1 million budget. And this is a 5.7% increase over last year. And this is driven by continued development in our city, as well as rising property values in our area. And lastly, in that other revenues category, this exceeded its budget by $2.4 million. And this includes building permits, plan checks, inspection fees, interest, many other things. And most of these categories came in higher than was anticipated. Moving on to general fund expenditures, this table shows the general fund departments and other expenditures. And in total, general fund spending concluded FY25 3% below its budget. And that's primarily due to position vacancies and lower than anticipated spending on materials, services, and supplies across several of our departments. Now we'll move on to enterprise funds. For enterprise revenues, our utilities, those first four, electric, water, waste services, they all ended the year above their revenue estimates. Transit, transportation, and youth development, as you can see there in that balance remaining column, ended the year below. And I'll review some details of these variances over the next couple slides. Okay, so electric revenues ended the year 5% over estimates, and that's due to a host of reasons, of course, but higher than expected usage and wholesale power sales that exceeded expectations. For the environmental utilities funds, water operating revenues ended the year 5% above its budget. There was higher than expected usage and unforeseen demand from Placer County Water Agency, PCWA. Wastewater exceeded budget revenues by 2%. That's due to stronger than expected residential account growth. Recycled water sales, which is part of wastewater, exceeding expectations, and renewable natural gas, RNG sales, exceeding expectations as well. And then waste services exceeded its budget by 6%, again, like wastewater, due to stronger than expected residential account growth. Continuing in our enterprise funds, transit and transportation ended the year below their budgets, but ultimately aligned with their actual expenditures. And since expenditures were lower than planned, including salary savings, material supply savings as well, reimbursements of local transportation funds, the revenues for these funds were also lower than budgeted. Youth development ended its year 16% below its budget. Like last year, Adventure Club registrations were lower than expected, and that's due to the state-mandated after-school program that is on school campuses that offers a similar service, and limited staffing as well. That's posed a challenge to expanding registrations, impacting the program's ability to generate additional revenue. We'll switch to expenditures for the enterprise funds. You can see here in the variance column, all our enterprises entered the year under budget. So we'll go into some details. Beginning with electric, the positive year-end result there, they ended 7% below their budget. There were lower than expected power supply and generation costs, reduced spending on contract services, staff vacancies. All of the EU funds ended the year under budget, and this primarily due to salary savings from vacancies, lower than expected spending on materials, services, and supplies, delays in some projects, and planned consulting work as well. And for EU, some of the savings for these operating funds will be transferred to their rehab funds to pay for projects, or to their rate stabilization funds to guard against rate hikes that could come in the future. Transit and transportation both ended the year under budget due to several factors. Transit had lower than expected contract services and savings from vacancies. Transportation experienced savings from vacancies as well, reduced travel and training costs, as well as lower spending on contract services. For youth development, they ended the year under budget as staff continue to take measures to reduce their operating costs to offset their revenue shortfalls. And now we'll look at FY25 year-end for fire facilities, public facilities, and strategic improvement funds. For all of these funds, revenues exceeded estimates. Fire exceeded its revenue budget by $89,000, public facilities by $1.2 million, and strategic improvement fund by over $66,000. And this is due to increased fee collection and higher than expected interest in these funds as well. And the next slide just shows you their fund balances. Fire facilities ended FY25 with a balance of $2.4 million, public facilities with $16.5 million, and strategic improvement for $9.6 million. And these funds contribute to some of our large citywide projects. I will turn it back over to Scott.
Thank you, Nancy. So included in this recommendation tonight is a budget adjustment to transfer approximately $671,000 of that $11.6 million in general fund surplus to the Youth Development Fund. And this transfer addresses a deficit that's in that fund, which is primarily driven by the reduced enrollment revenues, which Nancy just went over. As for the remaining balance of the surplus, approximately $10.9 million, our plan is to evaluate some potential options and bring those recommendations back to the City Council at a later date after we complete the City Council strategic planning workshop, and also potentially as part of the proposed budget for fiscal year 27. So that concludes our recommendation and presentation tonight, and we're available to answer any questions you may have.
Excellent, thank you. We always love under budget. Good job. Does council have any questions before we go to public comment?
Yeah, quick reminder on public facilities. That includes like when we rent Vernon Town Square or rent Mahaney or Maidu. Is that where the revenue comes from?
No, the public facilities fee is a development impact fee that's
Oh,
charged.
that,
Yeah.
we've talked about that.
Yeah, we
Oh,
recently-
okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, never mind. Thought I had a
No,
revenue source.
you were onto something.
Yeah.
Are you going to, you have the next presentation on where we're tracking this year?
Yes.
Are we going to address youth developments so that we don't end up in a deficit mode again this year?
Yeah, we'll touch upon where we're at, not in a lot of depth. We'll probably go into a lot more depth on it as part of the 27 budget process about some steps we're going to be taking to address that deficit.
How did we do last year with youth development?
Well, it ended up overspent overall by $671,000, and that's where we're at.
We've been in the red.
We've been
Yeah,
in the red.
we're-
Probably
That's
since
how come.
2020-ish.
Yeah, that's how come.
Yes.
Yeah, and
So
we've been,
that's a great question, and we have been supporting it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
until it can get back on its feet, yeah. Okay, I'll open it up to public comment. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to make a comment on this item? Now would be your time to come forward. No? Okay, we'll close public comment. Are we taking action here?
Yes, recommendation?
Yep.
So on item number 22, the City Council will consider the recommendation to adopt ordinance number 7038, authorizing certain amendments to fiscal year 2025-26 budget, and declaring this ordinance to be immediately effective as an appropriation measure. If I can have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with a second. We'll start roll call with Vice Mayor Elbert.
Yes.
Councilmember Haldeshell.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've got the same team in place for item 23, fiscal year 2025-26 first quarter report and fiscal year 26-27 budget calendar.
So good evening.
Good evening.
Scott Pettengill, Finance Director, and joining me today is tonight is Nancy Roethlisberger and Jackie Rice, our new Budget Manager for the city. And this evening, we'll be presenting an informational first quarter financial report for fiscal year 27 and a fiscal year 27 budget development calendar. And as with last year, the first quarter report that we'll be presenting tonight will only focus on general fund revenues, and the second, third, and fourth quarter reports that we'll be presenting to you at a later date will follow a similar format to previous years with a focus on revenues, expenditures for our general fund, enterprise funds, as well as the notable funds, a couple other notable funds. So while we're not currently aware of any significant expenditure budget issues, we do want to keep you updated on the status and forecast for the general fund revenues, especially our sales tax revenue, which we'll go into more detail later in this presentation. So now I'm going to hand off the presentation to Nancy to present the first quarter report, and then we'll be handing off to Jackie, who will be going over our fiscal year 27 budget development calendar.
Okay, so I'll start with FY '26 first quarter general fund revenues. Okay. So this table, this compares the amended general fund revenue budget to the amount collected during the first quarter of FY '26. So that's July through September of 2025. So the amended revenue budget totals $218.6 million, with $15.1 million collected so far during that first quarter. That's about $7 million of the total. And that's, that's 7% of the total. The 7% collection rate compared to 25% of the year elapsed is typical, consistent with prior years, and it's due to the timing of our major revenues, sales tax and property tax, that caused this difference. Sales tax here reflects only 1 month of sales, and property tax is received later in the year. So overall, general fund revenues are trending at or slightly above estimates, and we are actively monitoring these. On sales taxes, and we are currently forecasted to end the year slightly above our budget. We'll go into that more later. And economists and our consultants are forecasting for us the economy will begin recovering later in 2026, while the near-term conditions are still constrained amidst considerable uncertainty. This comes from our sales tax consultant. This shows the annualized percent change in sales tax from Q4 2022 to the third quarter of 2025. Their charts are always in calendar year, so that last point, that 2025 Q3, that is our FY '26 Q1. So that is July through September 2025, if you're with me. You can see that Roseville, which is the blue line there, along with Placer County and the state, are experiencing a recovery here. However, our growth rate is for the current fiscal year is forecasted as 2.9% over the prior year. This graph shows trends for Roseville's 4 major sales tax generators. That's the Roseville Auto Mall, the Creekside Town Center, the Westfield Galleria, and the Fountains. Again, through the third quarter of 2025, same deal with the way the years work. And you'll notice some typical seasonal patterns. The Galleria is in green. It's the second one from the top. That shows a spike in fourth quarters from holiday shopping. Auto Mall, which is in blue at the top, typically increases in the second quarter with better weather, higher consumer activity. But you'll also see that sales tax from the Auto Mall has risen to above $3 million for that last data point. This increase is related to consumers pushing to buy EV vehicles before the expiration of the federal tax credit, which was in September. Creekside, which is red, and the Fountains, which is at the bottom in purple, those have maintained steady sales for the 2003 to 2005. Okay, so we'll look at sales tax in a little more detail. The table there at the top shows the latest year-end forecast from our consultant for both Bradley Burns and Measure B. These estimates range from $101.7 million to $105.8 million, with the most likely forecast coming there in the middle at $103.7 million. And then that second table below takes that most likely scenario and compares it to our budget. And if that is the way things went, we would yield a $3.3 million sales tax surplus. Then we look at property tax. This is the general fund's second largest revenue source. Based on the latest information from the county, we expect these revenues to exceed our estimates by about $400,000. That they might reach about $80.9 million compared to our budgeted estimate of $80.5 million. And this is attributed to the continued pace of development and rising property values. You'll notice we don't have any actuals really to show here because we won't receive them until the third and fourth quarters of our fiscal year. Now this shows our TOT, transient occupancy tax or hotel tax. It shows our budget there of $7.4 million, our year-end forecast. We're right now anticipating this will end slightly below our budget by about $200,000. We had estimated some minor growth here, but it looks like it might come in more in line with prior years. Placer Valley Tourism, PVT, has also indicated some growth suppression after higher growth that was coming out of the pandemic. And now PRL and development revenues. PRL revenues are seasonal, as I'm sure you know, due to the timing of their programming. As of the first quarter, these revenues were at 28% of their budget. That's about $1.5 million compared to the total budget of $6.3 million. We're anticipating that these will end the year at their budget target. Building permit revenues are slightly below budget in the first quarter, and that's mainly due to a decrease in single-family and multifamily dwelling unit permits as we continue toward build-out in the West Roseville specific plans. Despite this, staff still anticipate these revenues will be pretty consistent throughout the year because of steady commercial building permit activity. So right now, we're expecting these to end the year slightly below or at their budget. Plan check revenue is on budget at the end of the first quarter, and staff expect these to remain steady through the year. Engineering fees are exceeding their budget through the first quarter. That's largely associated with the Bosch project, and staff anticipates these revenues will moderate over the year. Our other revenues, includes many things such as state and development reimbursements, property transfer tax, business license tax. We have our passport fees in here, interest in our fund. These were at 15% of the budget as of the first quarter. And this, again, is in line with expectations. We don't anticipate any significant variances in this category. Overall, we expect to end the year approximately on budget, which is in total $16 million. And I'll pass it back to Scott for the year-end forecast.
Thank you, Nancy. So to bring everything together and wrap up our first quarter portion of this presentation, we wanted to provide an overview of our general fund forecast for the current fiscal year. At a high level, based on the first quarter results, general fund revenues are trending to end the year at or slightly above our estimates. On the expenditure side of things, modest savings are anticipated, and that's largely driven by salary savings similar to prior years. And in terms of ongoing budget monitoring, we're going to continue to closely monitor both revenues and expenditures through the remainder of the year, refine our estimates, and provide updates in our future quarterly reports. So next, we're going to shift our focus to what's ahead and planning for fiscal year 27. It's already well underway. How should I say? It's already well underway, I guess is the right way of saying that. And a key part of that process is developing our fiscal year 27 budget development calendar. And to walk us through this and the timelines and key milestones involved in that process, I'm going to turn it to Jackie, the city's budget manager.
Thank you, Scott. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Jackie Rice, and I'm the City of Roseville's new budget manager. I'm happy to be here this evening to share a brief update on the city's FY26-27 budget development activities. So starting here this evening, obviously we've gone through the FY24-25 year-end report and the FY25-26 first quarter report. In a couple of weeks, we have the City Council Strategic Plan Workshop on February 23rd. About a month after that, the week of March 23rd, we will be holding our City Manager Budget Review meetings. This is where departments will present their FY26-27 requests to the City Manager. Then on April 1st, staff will present 3 items to the City Council: the annual financial policy update. Two items. The annual financial policy update and the pension and other post-employment benefits update. On April 15th, there will be 3 items. The position vacancy report, and then the local sales tax oversight committee will provide their report as well, followed by electric and environmental utilities with their budget update presentations. So moving forward to May 6th, the proposed capital improvement plan will be presented to the City Council, and then the proposed budget will be delivered to you and released to the public on May 15th. The following week, on May 20th, staff will present the FY 26-27 second quarter, oh, that's a 26 report, second quarter report, followed by the City Council budget workshop on May 27th. And finally, on June 17th, we will return to adopt the budget for FY 26-27. That concludes our presentation this evening, and we're available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Nice job.
Thank you.
Okay. Does the council have any questions of staff before we go to public comment?
Not down here.
I'm good?
No,
All
we're
right.
fine.
Okay. Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'll open to public comment. Would anyone like to make a comment on this item? Now would be your time. Okay, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the council for an action.
No, there's no.
This information.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
we'll just take action now on.
Okay, thank you. Information. All right, one last public comment for this evening can be on any item that's not on the agenda. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment on the agenda? Now would be your time. Okay, we'll close public comment. I know we have closed session after this. Does our staff have any final comments?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Does the council have any comments to make?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
no, there's, Karen and I had a meeting today, just a quick announcement for South Placer Wastewater Authority. And we actually got a presentation from 3 of our engineers from each of our departments, whether it's from Roseville, the county, our Natural Utility District. And it helped us learn kind of talking about flows in sewage, actually. It was very interesting kind of talk, but it's not one that you probably think about too much. But it actually, it brought up a lot of discussion and kind of ideas of what they did in this study, and things that were similar to us and some that were not at all. And what our board decided to do is have staff go back and look at some of the questions and concerns and talks that we had, and bring back some ideas on that they may have. That's the only, I have other things, but I think we have other things to do.
Yeah, and I would just add, Pauline and I had an opportunity with our incredible government affairs staff to participate in the California Municipal Utilities Association Day, and breakfast with Northern California Power Agency, and so that just kind of fits right in with what you heard from our staff tonight.
Okay. Just a couple things to report on. Most of us were able to attend the SPCA ribbon cutting for their new vet center. Huge turnout and a great asset to Roseville. They had a beautiful ribbon cutting over the weekend. I want to say thank you to Chief Bergstrom. He toured the police department with a young man in our community who reached out to me, and he's interested in being a dispatcher, but he was very interested in the real-time crime center and the cars. So just a 18-year-old young man, maybe give him some incentive to keep working towards that. I want to thank the team that took me out on the point in time count. We have Sergeant, I just don't use bug, but team, we did a point in time count last week, counting our unhoused population, which was very insightful. And then just lastly, real quick, a big congratulations to our city manager who received an award at the Chamber Installation Dinner, an Aldo Panesci Community Service Award for your leadership and in our community. So congratulations, you were recognized in front of hundreds of community members. And great job. And I know, I got it. And
I'm all alone down here.
And just recognizing my colleague here on the council who was recognized with the Athena Award, which is awarded a prestigious award to those in leadership who have helped those behind them, who demonstrate servant leadership, and that's everything that you emulate. So you received a big recognition in front of hundreds of our community members last week, so great job.
Thank you, thank
Yeah.
you.
So with that, I will adjourn us to closed session, and we will be meeting back here again in 2 weeks, February 18th at 6 p.m. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Do you want me to do roll call for the start? Okay. So we'll start our closed session.